Are streaming live, good. Evening members, and welcome to members of the public and members of the press who are watching online. Hope you enjoy the meeting this evening. If the live stream does go down, we will try to get it back, but obviously if that's not successful, we'll carry on without it, but hopefully that doesn't happen. First item is public question time.
Thank you, Chair. There are none.
Okay, thank you, Jane. And the second item is apologies and substitutions.
Thank you, Chair. I've just been informed that Chika Akinwala is not in attendance, but Councillor Charlotte Kane is in attendance as substitute, and Councillor Mary Wade is running late, but she will be here.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Right, declarations of interest. Members, any declarations of interest? Here's Councillor, there's Mary now. I'll let Councillor Wade take a seat. It's okay, we've only just got to declarations of interest, so you haven't missed anything. Okay, any declarations of interest, members? Obviously, if anything comes up during the meeting that you think you need to declare, then do it at that time. But otherwise, we will proceed. Item 4 are the minutes of the meeting of the 27th of November. Are members happy with the accuracy of those minutes? I'm seeing no dissent, so good. Thank you. That's taken as read. Chair's announcements, I haven't got any. So we move on to item 6, which is the East Cambridgeshire Biodiversity Report, and Richard Kay is going to introduce the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just be brief by way of introduction, but just in case anybody doesn't know who I am, my name's Richard Kay. I'm the Climate Change and Natural Environment Manager for the Council. So, the Environment Act 2021 has introduced a whole range of new duties and activities on district councils like ourselves, and today I'm here to present another one of those to you. So, under our new biodiversity duty, which the Environment Act introduced to us, the Council is obliged to prepare a regular monitoring reports from now on around its activities as to how we've assisted with conserving and enhancing biodiversity. Paragraph 3.4, if you want to read the exact details of what such reports need to contain, so that summarises what we need to do. So primarily, the report presented to you today is for approval is to meet that statutory duty that we now have for preparing and publishing such a report. But I think rather than just the report at Appendix A, rather than being just a tick box exercise to meet our statutory duties, I think it's quite a bit more than that, because I think it provides a really useful summary of some of the key nature activities that my team and wider colleagues across the council has done over the past 2 or 3 years to help support nature recovery in the district, as well as some of the headline proposals that we intend to do in the next 2 or 3 years. All of it part of our corporate approach to bring back nature to East Cambridgeshire. So hopefully partly it's of interest to you all, just summarising some of the activities we've done and some of the activities that are coming up, and hopefully also you are happy for the report to be published to meet our statutory duty to prepare such a report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Members, any questions of Richard on the report? Councillor Kane.
It's not a question, it's comments and discussion, or do you want to stick to questions for now?
I'll stick for questions. Are there any questions? In which case we'll go straight into debate then, yes, you can.
So, I congratulate the officers, because I think you have managed to do a lot with limited resource. But that said, I do find it slightly unambitious, and also I find the introduction, and I understand why, but I find it quite pessimistic. It talks about what we've lost, which is important because it sets the background. But we do have still got some very important parts of biodiversity in the district. Obviously, there's the lovely Devil's Dyke with the chalk grassland, which is a triple SI. There's our chalk streams, which are internationally important. And also, I would have thought in the introduction we might have mentioned Wicken Fen, which again is of international importance. And I'd have liked to seen in here, maybe it is and I missed it, but I'd have liked to see something that explicitly said that we would support the National Trust vision for Wicken Fen.
Okay. Did you want to come back on any of those, Richard, or are there more comments? Than
I can do if
it's entirely up to you,
Yeah, no,
as the report author. One thing I did forget to do there, I'll go to it first. Obviously, now we've gone on to slight debate. Is we do have to approve or not this report. So, do I have a proposer?
Yes, I'm happy to propose it. Thanks, Chair.
And do we have a seconder? Okay, thank you. In which case, then you can
just
respond. Thank you.
Councillor Kane is quite right. We do have a number of really important important habitats within our district. I think it's about the 5th or 6th paragraph down in that introduction. I do make reference to those internationally important sites and a link to the previous document, which is sort of stage 1 of this new duty we have. We have to set out some of the background to the district. So rather than repeating it all here, that other report does explain in quite some detail what do we have already, what are those important sites, why they're important, etc. So this is a kind of a step 2 of that process. So that is on our website already. This document will sit immediately under it. So if you really want to know a lot more about that, what do we already have and why is it important, then you can quite easily find that. So hopefully that, if you read the two together, it should work better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Richard. If I can go to we've done this slightly out of order. I should go to the proposer who wants to speak. Do you want to reserve your right, Councillor Goldsack?
Sorry, as a seconder.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. So, Councillor Bailey.
Thank you. I won't hold us up. I just want to say thank you for a massive amount of work that's gone into this. I'm really pleased with it. I don't find it unambitious at all. I find it. I think it's very detailed. There's a lot of content in there. We've done a huge amount already. There's always more to do, and I think it's a great document, and we should all support it.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Anybody else want to speak on this? No, in which case we go to the seconder, Councillor Goldsack.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Richard, well done. I also don't find this unambitious, but I think the real ambition, and something I'm going to look forward to, is how you make the periodic reporting that you must do equally as exciting. I think that's going to be a challenge for you. Hopefully, there'll be milestone after milestone of completed actions, which is always good to report on. But yeah, linking the two documents together, which I did go back to the web and have a look, then it makes a bit more sense. So I think that's a clerical situation that we're in. But thank you, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Goldsack. Councillor Bailey, is there anything as the proposer you want to comment on?
This is the first time we've done this. It's a starting point, and we've taken a fairly light touch approach, I think it's fair to say, and no doubt that this will, develop as time goes on, but I think it's a great starting point, and it's very clear and accessible and easy to read, so I'm really pleased with it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, we're being asked to, in 2.1, to approve the East Cambridgeshire Biodiversity Report as on Appendix 1. Can I have all those who are in favour of approving that? That is unanimous. Thank you, members. Thank you, Richard. Item 7 is the assets update, and Spencer Clark is here to present the report. This report is for noting. Thank you, and over to you, Spencer.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of little updates for you all. So, just bring your attention to the asset tracker, which is the Appendix 1 in the assets section. I'd just like to note out that on the section at Meeple Outdoor Centre, we should have had some costs in there for the spend on the security, which is 955 a month, and the running total for the year so far is £9,559. So those figures should have gone in that tracker spend. So I do apologise for that. I'll make sure that happens
Can we
next time.
can we circulate an amended tracker to members?
Yes, I can
That
do
would be useful, I think.
Yeah.
Are members happy with that? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, and then the second update I'd just like to give members is on the PIPA play audit. So just a quick refresh. We had 17 parishes express interest in the play audit initially. 15 parishes joined us on the PIPA's seminar, which was to explain what information they would need from the parishes to carry out the audits. Since then, we've had 7 parishes return all the information back to PIPA, and of those 7, they've been completed reports and they've gone back to each of those 7 parishes. In the interim since the seminar, I've sent out 2 reminders to the parishes that haven't yet responded, and again this week I'll send out another reminder. And then moving on to the East Cambs playgrounds, we've got 27 in total, just as a quick reminder, and half of those have been completed to date. And I had a Teams meeting with PIPA today, Becky at PIPA today, just to see we can bring some closure on our playgrounds, and she confirmed that in the next few weeks we'll have the rest of them completed and sent over to us, and then we can start assessing what information and what we've learned from the audits from there. And then just finally, to close off, the tenders for Newnham Street car park have now closed. We're going for the evaluation and then be awarding the contract very shortly, with works to begin pretty much imminently to be completed, hopefully by the end of March, beginning of April. That concludes my update, Chair. Happy to try and take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. Members, any questions of Spencer? I'm seeing Councillor Hunt as the asset champion. Is there anything you wanted to comment on?
Not particularly, Chair. No, thank you.
Okay, I'm seeing no questions, no comments, in which case, thank you, Spencer. Oh, sorry, Councillor Wade.
Apologies, late on the draw. It's my usual kind of follow-up on the refurbishment of the cloisters public conveniences, because I know that's been going on for quite a while, so I just wanted if there was an update. I see we're sort of looking at quotes and stuff, but...
Yeah, so the Palace Green toilets, that's now finished, closed and refurbished, and the tender for the cloisters is out at present. I've already had some responses, and I'm meeting with contractors on site as of next week to sort of go through the spec and things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. You didn't get away so lightly, Spencer. Kind of got Councillor Trapp now.
Well, I thought I'd drop in here. I noticed actually the amount spent on the Palace Green loos is considerably higher than the estimate.
Yeah, I did put a small little update in the asset report on that.
Yeah.
But it was once we were starting to strip out the fabrication of the building, we found there was quite a lot of, there was some leakage that had been happening for many years, and obviously that wasn't seen at the time when we were looking at drawing up the specification. But once it was being stripped out, we found quite a lot of, so there's some initial rotting of back of the systems and stuff that needs replaced, as well as some, we were hoping to reuse some of the existing sanitary items, but actually when we got them out, we realised that they weren't going to be suitable to be repurposed, so we did replace.
I'm very glad that we're actually making sure it is actually future-proof as well. That's the most important thing, I think. It's no point in just doing a light touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Trapp. Councillor Hunt, if you want to come in. Yeah.
Sorry, Chair, I forgot to... There's one item I'd like to mention. It's been seen in the local press that people from Littleport probably wouldn't have anywhere to park their cars when all the wheelie bins arrive shortly. That's quite erroneous, and the existing car park is staying open all the time, and something like 40% of the new extended car park is staying open for public use. So the public won't be inconvenienced any more than their current usage. or their current usage will be allowed. Sorry I didn't mention that earlier, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hunt. I'm seeing no other hands, in which case, finally, thank you, Spencer. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Item 8 is the Bereavement Centre project 6-monthly progress update, and we've got Isabel Edgar here who's going to present the paper. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you, Chair. I have a short presentation as well that I'd like to sort of take us through, really, to bring us up to speed with the first 6 months milestone.
There is one behind from. How are we going to do this?
So this is when we started back in September, and as you can see, here is where the old building was located, and they're just in the process of setting up their new site here. And this area here, and you'll start to see it in more detail, is will be our natural burial area. So really this was just setting up and readying the site, and we had a lot of ecologist feedback during this period as we were starting to progress in the early days of the build. Very quickly, I mean, the whole project is moving at exceptional pace, actually, and we're broadly ahead of programme across all the different work streams, despite the fact that we have experienced some really significant and complex ground challenges as well. Not least because we've had to move and recreate a lot of natural habitat on the site, which is actually fantastic, and it's really added to the quality of the environment as well. And you can just start to see over here there was a large sand bund, and we've started to recreate these bunds on the southern side of the site, which was from advice about that the habitat on the site much prefers sort of disturbed ground, so recreating these bunds elsewhere is really adding value to the site. We've also made the site secure during this period as well. And then we moved into November, and because we had such a dry period, we were well ahead of the programme, and we were able to get the floor slab completed during November. And we've also started to see the drainage and things go into the facility as well. During December, we had a volunteering litter pick day. The site had seen better days, it's fair to say, and there had been a lot of where people had been on site, even though we were trying to keep people off site before we started, and people were leaving a lot of litter on the site, and we did find huge amounts of debris. So that was a very small area of the site that we, some of our staff went over, and the Kia team, the construction team went over and cleared it up, and we managed to produce a skip full of just litter, so that was pretty incredible. We're going to be arranging another volunteer day to do some more of cleansing of the actual lakeside as well, and I'm sure we'll see some good stuff come from that. So we've now got the cremator in, the cremator hall shape in, and here you can see the porte cochere. So this will be the entranceway, a really beautiful entranceway for our prospective customers. I just wanted to show a little bit, to bring it to life a bit, around the groundwork issues that we've been having. So there were significant amounts of groundwork, and although we had done numerous ground surveys, as had Kia as well, what we actually found as we started to break out these pads were additional piling that we couldn't have identified through the surveys that we did. There are additional areas, sort of underground structures that we weren't even aware that were there, that needed either removing or filling in. And, you know, these structures kept going on and on and on. So we've had really significant challenges in the ground. It's been a challenging site because everything we had to do had to be observed by an ecologist to make sure that we were doing it safely. So that's added time and cost, but we have moved quickly, and there has been lots of effective resolutions as we've gone. And as I said earlier, the favourable weather has helped as well. You can just sort of see the scale of the amount of groundworks that we had to fully remove from the site. And obviously that has been one of the reasons why I've talked about some of the risk contingency being allocated to some of these works. More recently, we've also found, we went in October into our natural burial area, and we found these underground structures that didn't appear on any of our groundwork surveys. This was in an area that was predominantly just sort of scrubland really. They were buried deep in the ground. We're not even sure that we know what they originally were. Maybe they belonged to the quarry before it was the outdoor centre. So these we've had to completely remove. Obviously this is the natural burial area of the site, and the quality of the ground there needs to be absolutely perfect. So these are some of the issues that we've experienced and why that has contributed to the challenges around our risk contingency. So sort of finally the next steps really, this is the most recent photo that we have, and you can see down here these large sand and earth new bunds that we've created. We've planted lots of dead wood in there for all the insects and to encourage biodiversity back in. And we're now starting, this is the fully excavated area for our natural burials here. This area over here on the north side is where our function room is going to be built with a sort of, not quite a jetty, but a boardwalk down to near the lake as well. And then here we're just starting to create the flower walkway, which will come round into our remembrance garden. So there's loads of stuff going on site, and it is looking very, very positive in terms of the overall programme of activity. However, as I've stated in my report, I'll finish there on the presentation. As I've stated on my report, because of all these challenges that we've had, specifically around groundworks, but also additional surveying work that we've had to have done, whether that's ecology work or testing of soil and things like that, we've also had significant inflationary pressures across pretty much all our work streams. So this is professional fees, material fees as well. So we've just seen this general increase in cost pressures across the piece. And that has meant that our original £419,000 contingency has been fully allocated. We haven't spent that yet, but it has been fully allocated to risks that we see that are emerging, some of which are starting to, you know, we know that the groundworks, we don't know what the final cost of the groundworks that we uncovered in the natural burial area are, but we know there is a price against them. The original contingency equated to approximately 3% of the project budget. It's fair to say that normally you would have a contingency of around 10%, but we were initially confident in that sum because of the extensive groundwork surveys that we had undertaken, as had Kier as well when they were putting their bid in. So this gave us confidence about reducing the contingency and thinking that that would be sufficient. However, obviously things haven't borne out that way, but what it has done is it's meant throughout this project we've had a really granular focus on managing the project within its budget, and we are at that stage at the moment where yes, it's allocated but not spent, but it wouldn't be prudent to enter the next phase of the project without any further contingency. Now we're nearly out of the ground. However, there are some new emerging risks that have come forward on Monday, and these include the soil availability and quality of the soil that we were hoping to use. It was part of one of our value engineering options where we could reuse some soil that we had. So the quality has been a bit touch and go, but we think we're doing okay. But we've not been able to use as much as we had hoped originally. And also the function room had a slab that was in place, and we're not sure on the suitability of that slab now. We've ordered the function room, which is a modular building that's being built off-site, which was going to come in quite late into the programme to be placed onto this slab as part of reusing the original slab there. We've got ongoing discussions with Kier at the moment as to the suitability of that, but it might need to be removed, and therefore it's absolutely right that we ensure that we have a proper contingency in place so that we can make these decisions to allocate further risk contingency to these new risks that are identified. Obviously, delaying the project would in and of itself have significant overall risk to the cost of the project in its entirety. Members will note that there is not a do-nothing option. I haven't recommended that, primarily because these areas that we're looking to complete are fundamental to the success of the bereavement centre. We have an excavated area for the natural burial, and it wouldn't be right or proper to open our bereavement centre while we still have excavation areas there. Additionally, we have ordered the function room, and we've paid for that, so we'd still have a function room, but without anywhere to put it. So these costs that are rising out of these risks, they will need to be covered so that we can then move into offering our services in the summer when it's finalised. So you'll see that my recommendation is to allocate a further 300,000 of SIL funding towards the project for risk contingency. This would still only take the total risk contingency allowance on this project to 4.7% of the total project value. So we are still well below the norm for risk contingencies. Now, this money hasn't been allocated as it stands. This is really, if these risks continue to emerge, that we've got the ability to be able to approve the works to continue at pace. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Isabel. We have got, I'll go to questions first, and then we have got obviously a recommendation. Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Chair. 4.1c, you're talking about the substantial additional groundworks. Now, there were surveys done, and there was an initial business plan. Then we had the budget that was approved only last May, I think, not very long ago. And that budget had increased from the original costs because it expected more groundworks and landscaping due to the topography, ecology and ground conditions, additional ecologically safe drainage solutions, etc. So that was already in the budget. So why has there been so much more outside of the budget that you weren't anticipating if you did all those surveys? And the land's belonged to us for a while, hasn't it?
Yep, that's absolutely right. So some of the things that we found under the ground, you know, beneath these, some of the slabs that were already there, so there was no way of knowing what was underneath the slabs, were additional piling structures and things like that we had to pull out. So neither ourselves, through all our geotechnical work that we did, none of this was identified. Also things, quite simple things like where we've assumed a slab through our borehole testing, for example, has been around 0.5 metre thick, and then actually as we started to dig it out, it's come out at 600 mil thick. All of that adds additional cost and time to the process. So these were unforeseen, and it's very typical on these sort of large-scale groundwork projects where until you're out of the ground, you can't fully confirm, until you sort of dig into the ground, you can't fully confirm what's under there. So, you know, we've found structures on the site that were not on any maps. You know, this structure underneath the natural burial area was deeply buried, and we didn't know that it was there in any of our surveys.
But you've done surveys.
We have. I'll have to get back to you on the names of those surveys, but they were the standard ones that you would undertake through any design and build project like this. With geotechnical specialists.
Underground structures are
Can you use your microphone, Councillor Kane? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Underground surveys, underground structures are fairly easy to find in these surveys. So I'm curious as to what sort of surveys we did.
I'm
that
not a
didn't find them.
geotechnical specialist, but I will absolutely get the answer for you, Councillor Kane.
And you say Kier did surveys as well?
That's right.
So it's a fixed contract, fixed price contract, that we were told was low risk, but there would be exceptional circumstances where it might go over budget. So if Kier did surveys, what is exceptional? What's exceptional about finding things underground that you didn't expect?
So they would have costed for what they knew, and within that contract, which is pretty standard, they have provisional sums. So, for example, they would have had a provisional sum against groundworks, and if, like in the case that we found these additional piling that didn't come up on surveys, that would have come up as a provisional sum. Now, that's a risk to the client. It's not built into the contract because it's not something that they could know about.
So we were told...
Sorry, your mic again, please.
Sorry. We were told at full council that it was fixed price and remains low risk, but it's a large site where we clearly didn't have full understanding of it. We obviously hadn't done the appropriate sorts of surveys, so how was it low risk?
I don't believe at any point I said it was low risk, Councillor Kane. I will go back and have a look at my presentation and what I put in the report, but I did actually draw out in my report the complexities of the site that were adding to the costs. Now, where we thought we had done enough surveys to reduce some of that risk, and overall we have reduced some of that risk, because even with this additional contingency that I'm asking for council approval on, that would still be a far lower contingency amount to be held on this scale of project. So we have managed and mitigated the risk significantly throughout the project.
Yeah, sorry, that's muddling things, because whether or not you put in an appropriate contingency in the beginning, it is nothing to do with if it was very small and therefore it's not surprising it increases. That's not how you do a business plan.
Councillor Bailey, sorry.
Questions?
Are we in questions, or are we
Yes.
just generally having
Yeah,
a discussion?
I'm asking questions about the contract.
Well, can we not have a great preamble afterwards? Can we just ask the question and get the answers?
Okay.
So I apologise, it may not have been you who said low risk, but it is minuted that we were told it was low risk. We've heard about the additional works on site, which I'm confused about. And then you talked about inflation as being part of the problem. But the budget, we were told, included inflation to Q2 2026, which we're not yet in. So inflation was built into the budget. So how has inflation added to the costs? It was built into the budget.
That's right. So we made an estimate of what we thought those inflationary costs were going to be across the entire project budget. However, there have been certain areas that have seen greater inflationary increases than others. And that's what's come through in things like professional fees, particularly, even though we had, I think it was a 2.5% inflationary increase that we had on the project. We've seen greater costs come through as we've had to have surveys done. So we couldn't not do the surveys. And again, you know, we built in what we thought was a prudent amount, a standard amount, but these additional costs have been borne.
I'd be interested in seeing details of what those costs are over and above the inflation that you built in, and how you came to the assumptions on that inflation. So now, if you get this additional contingency and require it, what would be the payback time for the project?
Councillors will recall that there is no payback time for the project because it's a SIL funded project. So this does not impact revenue of the project at all. In fact, if we didn't complete these areas, which were income generating areas from natural burials and the use of the function room, that would have an impact on the overall revenue business case. But the reason it's being funded through SIL, if you recall, that de-risks the project at the outset in terms of return of investment.
So it doesn't change the business plan at all?
That's correct.
And what options are there to carry on with the project but reduce the cost through value engineering?
Value engineering has been built into the project throughout the entirety, from the design 3 phase all the way through to the structural phase. So, for example, I'll give a real example. We recently found a large container underground, concrete sort of bunker thing underground. And initially we were having to look at removing that, however, which would have been an additional cost. However, following some surveys, we were advised that we could actually collapse the bunker and fill it in so that it didn't need to be removed from site. So things like value engineering have been built into the project all the way through. There would be no point in removing that. We found a different, far cheaper way to keep it in situ and save ourselves some money. So value engineering was also built into the original contract. When we put that out, we had 3 total prices that came back to us. One was we don't do any value engineering and the project costs this much. The second one, which is the one we went with, which had provisional sums in it, as I've mentioned, had things like reuse of soil as a way of value engineering the project. So we had estimated that would save around £100,000. I'm giving you estimates here because I haven't got the business case in front of me, but around 100.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. My question wasn't clear. I meant now that you know that you've got additional costs, what have you looked at in terms of reducing the costs of the work to bring it back in budget?
So, sorry, I thought I'd just explained that. So all the way through, if we are able to reduce the cost, we do it at the point. So as we stand at the moment...
No, sorry, I meant standard practice in a project, if you're overspending, is to stand back and look at what's to come and how you can reduce the cost of that to bring it back in budget. So what are the options you looked at on that?
So there isn't an option not to complete these areas of work. That's not what I'm proposing, and I think I've been clear about why we wouldn't want to value engineer out these quite significant areas of scope. We have done things like reduce, in terms of sort of general things, we've looked at reducing landscaping requirements. We're also not going to be putting in the Fisherfolk car park in the northern edge of the site. It might be that we can still do it at a later date, but that is one area that's not really built into the overall programme. It wasn't like a major part of the scope. So there have been several things, but what we haven't done, I mean, we've ordered most of the materials now. We're building the building. We've got a cremator that's coming in from Germany. So at the moment, this is about whatever's directly in front of us, looking at a way of dealing with it. Anything else would start to reduce the quality of the facility. And given that this is about an experience, that would probably start to have an impact on revenue. So if you're thinking, maybe an example would be to reduce the specification of the furniture or something like that. We haven't ordered the furniture yet. We can have a look round and see what there is. So there might be some opportunities around that. But at this stage, I haven't done that because that is already costed. This money would only be for new emerging risks that would come forward.
And then this is a 6-month report. You talked about a bit of litter picking, but there's social value returning to the area, and it was meant to include local job creation, work experience, apprenticeships, training opportunities, use of local supply chains, community engagement. What has happened along those lines in the 6 months?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. We put out a press release recently about the sorts of social value return of it. I do receive a report. I'm just waiting for one at the moment, so I can share that with all members about the apprenticeships and the local employment and supply chains that are going on in the project as we speak. So we are still on target to, I think, achieve our 2.5 million. It was roughly around that amount of total social value over the life of this project. And I'll share that report with members afterwards.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. I've got Councillor Trapp, I think, wanted to come in. Then I've got Councillor Goldsack.
Thank you very much. I'm actually quite disappointed that you are not going ahead, or may not be going ahead, with the fishing club potential, because that seemed to me... What? Thank you. That's what I think you've just said. Is that right?
No, that's not right. What I've said is that there was originally an allocation in the planning for a Fisherfolk car park.
Yeah.
And I've said that we probably, we may or may not be able to go ahead with that car park. That doesn't mean that we can't have a fishing club operating out of the site.
But then the problem is that they have to park somewhere. This site is so far removed from any other habitation that you have to come there by car, or maybe cycle. In fact, right, actually, I was coming on to G, which actually mentions that. That's 4.1G. There are two things there. There's highways, the section 278 works. Have those been costed? It says, with detailed design of the main entrance underway presently. So has that actually been included in the cost so far? Or is it still something else to be considered?
So the design works are going ahead. They have been included in the cost, yes, because we had to do the highways work for the main entrance as well. So it made sense to do both the highways work for the main entrance and for the Fisherfolk car park, but there is no cost allocation towards the actual build of the Fisherfolk car park.
Right, but it's actually to do the main entrance rather than the Fisher car park here. It says under detailed design of the main entrance underway presently. Is that different from the entrance for the Fisher Club? Right, okay. But
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Goldsack next.
Thank you very much. Not surprised that you found in the ground what you found in the ground, and I'm not surprised that there'll be stuff in there that you don't know, but you're coming towards the end of the ground. So if there's good news out of probably not so good news, the degree of potential risk is de-risking as we proceed through the project, as far as I can see on this. My question is, even with that in mind, and you said yourself at the start of your dialogue, an average is about 10%, and we're still only going to be around about 4.7% overall contingency. Is that wise, and is there any risk that 300k is not going to be enough?
I mean, it's crystal ball gazing. I think the benefit of the approach we've taken has meant that the project team and Kia have been really creative about containing costs, because they've been really clear that there isn't a huge contingency budget that we can nibble into. And therefore, from what I know at this stage about the project, even with the risks that emerged on Monday, I mean, 300,000 is what I was advised by our cost consultants. So that's why I've put 300,000 in here.
My point on that one, though, was it the same cost consultants that advised 419?
Yes.
Okay. That just leaves me a little bit... I think you've got to do this. I think you're absolutely right in what you say. And as I say, I think we're over the hump of this. I think the worst of it is behind us. What I would be reluctant to see is another come to this committee and full council for more funds because you find something else. What I'm saying is, in terms of risk management, this should be now. So I'm hoping that very much that 300k is enough.
Okay, that's more a comment than a question.
I asked the question in the first bit.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
know, yeah. I've got Councillor Miller next. Then I know Councillor Kane wanted to come back in. If I can go to Councillor Bailey first, who's not asked a question.
Isabel,
yet,
can
then
you
I'll come back to
confirm that there is still informal car parking going to be available for the fisher folk, and that they will still have access, and that the fishing club will be able to use the site?
Yeah, I mean, currently the fisher folk are parking in that little area that we haven't laid down as car park. But we wanted it to be, you know, for a fishing club. And it might be that the fishing club themselves want to invest in that car park. So that's why we thought it was prudent to get the highways works done, highways designs done, so that we knew what sort of costs we were looking at. Equally, at the back of the lake, there is quite a wide access road and fisher folk park there currently at the moment.
Okay, I'm conscious Councillor Kane wants to come back in, but I'm trying to move on. But
Thank you, Chair. It's 4.1G. I'm just unclear on it. So the highways work to access the crematorium is in the budget. The costs of that are in the budget.
Yes.
But the highways work to access a potential fishing car park is not. No. I've basically for both the car park and the highways works that might be required, because we don't know what the works are not included now. But the highways work to get to the crematorium is included.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it says in this paragraph that neither the highways work for the fishing club, now we've clarified that, or the car park, that they were excluded from the original scope and build contract, and therefore presumably the budget. Is that correct?
They were as a phase 2. If you recall, when we were looking at the project, there was a sort of fixed part of the scope that we wanted to achieve. And if we could achieve the car park as well within that, and initially we were working with Kia to be able to deliver that, and that was put down as a risk allowance for us to be able to deliver that. That's now come out of the budget.
So it was to be an optional extra if there was enough.
That's correct.
It was never sort of properly in the budget.
It was.
It says here that it was outside the scope.
Yeah, it was outside the scope, so it was a nice to have as part of the project. Yeah, and that would have been able to be delivered if risks hadn't emerged as we've gone through.
sorry, Councillor Kane, can I ask for your mic again, please?
Oh, sorry, it isn't a saving because it wasn't in the budget.
So no, technically no, it's not a saving, no.
Okay, I think we've probably... Oh, Councillor Alison Wheeling.
We could just go back and ask if we can have some detail about the exact surveys that were carried out. As I've kept quiet about this because I work in the industry, and I have to say that a lot of the comments concern me greatly, because I know the equipment that Kia actually have is more than capable of actually identifying the obstacles that you've actually talked about. So I would like to understand what it is. It makes it very, very difficult with this because, you know, there seems to be a great deal of confusion. We haven't... We hear on one side that inflation is included, then it's not included or it's not enough. We hear that surveys have been done, but the surveys aren't adequate. It just feels that there is something that is not right here. So I think it would be a good place if we could actually understand exactly what has been done and what has been included and why it was done like that and not done in a way which would have actually revealed these problems before they started.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to the actual recommendation, the approval. So do I have a proposer?
Yes, Chairman, I'd like to propose.
Councillor Bailey. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Hunt. Do you wish to reserve your right to speak? Yes, I do. Okay, in which I'll move to the proposer and then I'll open it up for debate.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to start with a massive thank you to the entire project team who are running this project incredibly well. It's ahead of time. It's all on target to open on time, which is important for our revenue income, very important for our revenue income, which is built into our MTFS. And I think we need to keep this in perspective. We've not reached a point of having a cost overrun yet. What has happened is that we've allocated all of our contingency, and most of the reason for that is because there have been complete unknowns that with the best will in the world, and after all the surveying that we've done, and we have done endless surveying on this complex site, many surveys over the years, we just couldn't have known about. Some of these structures are buried very deep and the geotechnical surveys have not thrown them up. So there is a huge amount going on under the ground that we couldn't possibly have known about. So, you know, this contingency has been allocated to deal in a large part with things that were unknown. So I think, you know, we have to keep this in perspective and realise that this is an incredibly well-managed project. We set out life with only 3% contingency. Benefit hindsight, maybe we should have made it more, but actually I would argue that that has instilled a huge amount of project discipline into this project, because I know for a fact that there's been a lot of value engineering along the way. There's been huge effort to drive down costs. The type of contract that we entered, by its very nature, drove down cost right at the beginning. So, you know, the point is, are we getting value for money? And I wholeheartedly believe that we are getting very good value for money. Even with this additional allocation, which is only an allocation to create a new risk contingency pot, so it's not being allocated at this point, it's not being spent. I will eat my hat if we don't spend some of it, because there are bound to be, you know, a project of this size, £13 million project, there is bound to be some more unknowns that pop their head up. But even at that point, we'd still only be at a 4.7% contingency, which is low. And I think that's been a good discipline because, you know, it has instilled that financial discipline throughout the project. You know, I think Isabel said we're ahead of schedule. You know, we're on target to open this, I think, early September, late summer, early autumn, whatever the term is. The point is this can be funded by SIL. When we gave this project the go-ahead, we did make a backup provision, a contingency provision, to have a loan from the council if it was required. You know, our SIL income receipts are showing that is not required now, even with this £300,000 contingency, if it's required. So, you know, this does not have an impact in that sense. And, you know, we're on track to open on time. So these are not nice to haves. These are things that we have to deal with. They are unknowns. This is only an allocation so that we don't cause delays in the project, and that's really important at this point. The project team needs the ability, if something else rears its head, to be able to deal with that. We cannot be having delays by waiting for committee meetings and full council meetings. So I'm fully in support of this, and I want to, you know, I urge people to, in fact, I think there's some discussion about possibly having a site visit because it's amazingly exciting. There's a huge amount of work going on down there. It's a really exciting project, and I'd urge people to go and have a really good look at it and get into it and support and be positive about what's going on, because, you know, I'm looking forward to, in fact, I'll just tell you a little story. I was at Poets House meeting somebody for a meeting the other day, and on the way in, somebody stopped me and said, somebody that I didn't know, in fact, stopped me and said, Anna, can I just talk to you? Can you tell me, is the bereavement centre going to open on time? And it was a sad story because it was a relative of this lady that had a life-limiting illness, but she was incredibly upbeat because this person had a really close association with this site from his past, and she really badly wanted to use this site and to be close to home, and for the ashes after the cremation to be spread on the site. And I said, yes, it's ahead of schedule, it will be opening on time. And, you know, it shows you that there is a need for this, there is a desire for it. It's going to be an incredible facility that we should all be proud of. And I urge you to go and have a look while it's being built and to support the council in its endeavours, and to support the fact that it will contribute to this council or a future council's medium-term financial strategy and revenue income in the future, as well as providing a really heartfelt and, I believe, brilliant service. We've got a new manager for the bereavement centre, somebody with huge experience from the commercial sector, who's very excited about running this facility brilliantly for our district and our residents who need to use it.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Member, anybody wish to? Councillor Kane.
I've found the reference. It's in the paper that went to full council in May, paragraph 5.3. Following the procurement process using the national framework, the terms and conditions of the contract are in a standard form and will commit the council to the build programme. The cost returned through the tender is a fixed price. However, as with all contracts of this nature, does make provision for exceptional circumstances, but remains low risk. So we were told it was a low risk project. We were told it's fixed price. We've had no indication of what conversations have gone on with Kier to make sure that they do not increase the price to us, because it should only be for exceptional circumstances. They did ground surveys. If they didn't find all the problems, that's not exceptional, that's their problem. So I'm not convinced that we have held them to the contract. I also note that they themselves had a contingency within their contract. So either they've committed all of that, or they still have that they could use to assist with bringing the project in on budget. I haven't heard anything that properly explains the cost increases based on what we were told at the time of the budget. We were told that the budget included for extra groundworks. We were told that it included for extra surveys, including extra environmental surveys. And yet we're told that part of the cost overrun is because of extra surveys. I've seen no breakdown as to how many surveys we budgeted for, how many happened, what sort of surveys, and I remain totally unconvinced that good quality groundwork surveys can't find most structures underground. I find that utterly unconvincing, and incidentally, of course, I speak as someone who has had to survey looking for structures underground. So I'm not convinced by this, that we are, as councillors, managing this project properly. I don't think this report gives us the information as to how these additional costs have genuinely arisen, what has been done to hold Kier to the fixed price contract to make sure we're not overspending, what is being done to try and reduce the costs of what's left of the project, so that we have those options to take rather than having extra money. I haven't seen any, there's no options here. What are our choices? This is not what I would expect to see for a 6-month report on a well-run project, and it's certainly not what I would expect to see for a 6-month report on a project that is asking for another £300,000 contingency. I think it's irresponsible to go ahead with this based on the information that's been provided to us today. We just don't have adequate information to know if this is the right decision. And I would ask for a recorded vote on this, and I'm afraid I can't support it.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. Any other member? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to observe that from my professional experience in electronics, that no two projects are alike, and that low risk is not the same as no risk. The sorts of significant risks, at least in my business, might look more like regulatory and compliance risks, where there are major cost implications, such as having to tear something down and repeat work, or perhaps worse, redesign the whole thing all over again in order to meet those requirements. So from what I'm hearing, this is still low risk, not no risk, and neither is it significant risk. The kind of uncertainties under discussion are what contingency allowances are for. Just to echo remarks from each of Isabel and Councillor Bailey, yes, to some degree, you can choose to trade one cost off against another, but it does not follow that just because you can, that it is wise to do so within reason, especially if to do so undermines matters on which the business case relied in the first place, as I think Isabel noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Members, any other speakers? No. In which case I'll go to the seconder, Councillor Hunt.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, I'd like to say well done to Isabel. I think the information she's given us has been substantial, and it's actually reduced the amount of questions or things I would like to say. What I will say is I'm not going to spend a very long time grandstanding for political purposes. I'm going to try and keep the consideration for other members and be modest in the time I take. I think it's worth noting that if you look at the percentage increases that this project has got, I work out that even now, even if we pass this, it will be something like in the region of 4.7%, and I think that's actually below the industry average. If you work out the figures, and I must admit I haven't done mine with a calculator, the increase that we're talking about tonight is only just over 2%, and I think that is really quite significant. And I do have a certain respect for Councillor Kane, because of course being involved with the Houses of Parliament, she'll know a lot about costs going up, and costs going up in the millions of pounds, and then the builders coming in with various reasons why the cost of renovation of the Houses of Parliament. I don't think they're talking about 2% figures when they come in with revised figures. I also think it's rather sad when an excellent scheme comes forward that a certain group of people feel inclined, just as a matter of policy, to disagree and try and score points. There's no points to be scored here. It's a good scheme. It's going ahead well, and you will get the opportunity to have a look at it and see it's something that you can be proud of and will produce an income for this authority. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. I'll now go to Councillor Bailey to sum up.
Thank you. I would just like to address one or two things that were said. I mean, Councillor Kane's worried that, you know, the description in the outset talked about extra groundworks. Well, I think we've been pretty clear that there have been unknown things that were not known at the time of setting the budget that have reared their heads. And Isabel gave many examples, but for example, there was a slab when the borehole was taken, and you can't do much better than take an actual core sample of the slab. It was 0.5 metre, and then it turned out to be 600 mil across much of the slab. I don't know whether it was wedge shaped or what, but you know, it was deeper than the core sample suggested. So, you know, those things are going to add up. They can't be known at the outset, and there have been structures that have been uncovered that were not known at the outset. So it's perfectly clear that these have been unknown things that have come along in the project. Councillor Kane is worried about there not being any options presented and where are the choices. I mean, you know, there is no choice to not have the function room. You know, the choices at the moment would be to change fundamental aspects of what the project is, which would completely undermine the business case. So those are not choices. You know, these additional unknown groundworks had to be dealt with. We cannot proceed in a project when all of the contingency, because of those unknown items, has been allocated, because it would cause delays. And Councillor Kane says that it would be irresponsible today to recommend to full council and go ahead with this recommendation to full council. I suggest absolutely the opposite. It would be irresponsible not to, because the consequences of building delay into this build would be catastrophic. They would be huge. They would be absolutely huge. Not least, you know, we'd probably have serious contractual issues with the builder. It would build delay into the opening date and the facility not being available to members of the public who are looking forward to it being available, which would cause a knock-on effect on our revenue income stream. So, you know, and the 300,000 that may or may not be used would pale into insignificance in the face of all of that. So it is not irresponsible to go ahead. It is irresponsible not to go ahead and make this provision and give our project team the ability to continue and finish the brilliant project that they've started. So, you know, I urge our colleagues opposite not to build that risk into this council by not supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. We've got the recommendations. Members are requested to note the progress towards the completion of the bereavement centre, which we've done. Committee is asked to recommend to full council the approval of up to £300,000 of SIL funding towards the project for risk contingency. We've had a request from Councillor Kane for a recorded vote, so if I can ask Jane to ask members. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. When I read out your name, can you tell me whether you're for, against or abstaining? Councillor Bailey.
For.
Councillor Bovingdon.
For.
Councillor Kane.
Against.
Councillor Denny.
Against.
Councillor Goldsack.
For.
Councillor Hunt.
Support.
Councillor Miller.
For.
Councillor Sharp.
For.
Councillor Trapp.
Against.
Councillor Wade.
Against.
Councillor Alison Whelan.
Against.
And Councillor Christine Whelan.
Against.
Chair, that's 6 for and 6 against.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Obviously, to break the deadlock, I will vote in use my casting vote to vote in favour of the recommendation. Thank you. That concludes that item, and thank you, Isabel, for your presentation and the questions and the answers. Moving on, item 9 is the annual Treasury Management Strategy policy statement, and I hand over to Emma Grimmer.
Thank you, Chair. As I advise members, I'll be substituting for Jude, who is unable to do this evening. So this item is the Council's 2026-27 Annual Treasury Management Strategy Minimum Revenue Provision Policy Statement. and the annual investment strategy. I've got nothing to add to the content of the report, and the recommendation before you is set out in 2.1. And if approved today, this will be considered by full council on the 24th of February. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Emma. As Emma says, she's standing in for Jude. We have got a recommendation here, so I will happy to propose this from the chair, that we recommend this to full council. And do I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair, and reserve my right.
Before we go to debate or vote, members, are there any questions on the detail which Emma can take back and get answered for you? No, I'm seeing nothing. In which case, are there any comments members want to make on the report? No, I'm seeing nothing. In which case, as the proposer, I'm looking. I would urge members to vote for this, and looking forward to recommending it to full council. So, did you? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, can I just interrupt and just ask Emma that you send our best wishes to Jude and hope he recovers?
I will, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Whelan, for that. Yeah, thank you. In which case we move to the vote, and all those in favour of the recommendation to recommend this to full council? That is unanimous. Thank you, members. And then item 10, moving on, is Emma again, is the revenue budget, capital strategy and council tax for 26-27.
Thank you, Chair. This, as we said, this report sets out the Council's proposed revenue budget, capital strategy and council tax for 2026-27. So just to briefly take you through the report, and I'll take questions back to the finance team if you have any, and get them answered for you. So section 4 on pages 88 and 89 of the report detail the local government finance policy statement. And as stated, this is the first multi-year settlement for many years. And the statement outlines reforms to deliver a fairer and simpler funding system for the local government. And it sets out the support in 2026-27 to transition to the new system. Section 5 on pages 89 and 90 of the agenda pack details the provisional settlement. The revenue support grant is no longer allocated as it was before, and instead is being used as the transition mechanism. The new homes bonus scheme has been discontinued for 2026-27, and the provisional settlement includes transitional protection to manage the funding changes from the Fair Funding Review and the business rates reset. The recovery grant does continue in 2026-27, but East Cams doesn't qualify for this and therefore didn't get an allocation. The Internal Drainage Board levies will continue in 2026-27, with final allocations being confirmed in the final settlement. A prudent assumption is made in this budget. Section 6 on pages 90 and 91 details the assumptions made on the business rates. Estimate figures are informed by the advice of our external consultant, Pixel Financial Management. Section 7 on pages 91 and 92 identifies the key assumptions and states that the 2026-27 budget is fully funded. Section 8 on page 92 confirms that the Council's base budget can be funded from our earmarked reserves, and therefore are sufficient earmarked reserves to cover unforeseen events. Section 9 on pages 92 and 93 identifies the Council's fees and charges. Section 10 on page 93 and 94 details the capital strategy and the key projects within that strategy. We return to section 11, which sets out the council tax assumptions. Section 12 provides from pages 95 to 97 provides the risk and sensitivity analysis. And then section 13 details the medium-term financial strategy, the key assumptions made, and identifies that the budget for 2026-27 and 27-28 are fully funded. There are budget shortfalls in 28-29 and subsequent years. If approved this evening, the budget will be considered by full council on the 24th of February. I've been asked to bring to members' attention, I apologise for the lateness of this, that there will be a change when you see this report at full council on the 24th of February. There'll be a change to 11.8 and 11.9 of the report, and I've tabled this, so hopefully members have all got a copy of that. What will happen is the 2 paragraphs that currently exist within that will be replaced by the 2 paragraphs that I've set out in the paper that's tabled for you under the officer amendment to the report, and this will be read into the minutes. So I'm asked and assured by Jude that this change of narrative of the report does not change the figures in the budget. So there is an amendment as well to the recommendations, but I will leave that. I'm happy to take questions. It's unlikely I'll be able to answer them, Chair, but I will take them back and ensure that responses are provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. If I go to questions, are there any questions of Emma? No, I'm seeing none. In which case, I'll go to the, as you say, we go to the recommendation. As you say, we have got an amendment. So if I go to the amendment first, and Councillor Bailey, who's the proposer of the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to propose the amendment.
And I'm happy to second that from the chair. So if we go, if you go into your proposal.
Thank you, Chair. The amendment is a simple one. It proposes to, instead of making an increase to council tax of £5, which is what we have built into our medium-term financial strategy from previous decisions of full council for prudent purposes, the amendment seeks to suggest that we should freeze council tax for the 13th year of this authority. You know, we are able to do this. We have a pledge and a corporate plan provision that says we will only increase council tax as a last resort. And we are very far from last resort territory. So keeping with our promises to the public, that is why I'm putting forward this amendment. The budget also includes freezing the paid-for car parks down at Angel Drove and the Dock car parks, so no increases there. You know, and this is in the face of so-called fair funding review and settlement. And in actual fact, this council is one of the worst affected councils in the entire country. You know, that the government says it wants, you know, business increase and economic growth and development. And as one of the councils that's seen large business growth increases, we are now being penalised by the government, which is a sad state of affairs. And there was some analysis done recently, and in fact, rural councils, the most rural councils versus the most urban councils, rural councils are really losing out from this so-called fair funding reform. And in actual fact, the most urban councils out of these new reforms are going to be receiving 41% more per head of population funding than the most rural councils. So that is a shocking differential that's really, I don't think, ever been. It's unprecedented. And that is the size of the change that the government has made with this so-called fair funding review. So even given all of that, you know, our council is incredibly responsibly financially managed. We still have no external borrowing, and there is no provision in this budget for proposing external borrowing. We're still managing to borrow from our own resources, which is a very good thing because we get interest payments back to the council, so it helps taxpayers. It's a balanced budget for 2 years, which has always stood us in good stead. And the deficit in year 3 is smaller than it has been, in fact, in previous years. It builds in an increase for our internal drainage boards, which need it, and it keeps our reserves at a strong level of 10% of our operating budget. So, and, you know, it still includes all that provision for the new waste and recycling service, which is going to be starting in June, the bereavement centre and our affordable housing programme, etc. So, despite, you know, what the government is doing to us, we continue to be well managed and in good financial health, and we are able to suggest this council tax free. So that is what I would like to propose that we put forward to full council in February.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Any other comments on the budget? In which case, I, as a second, I've got nothing further to add to what Councillor Bailey has said. So I'll move to the vote, which is to set out in the amendment paper 2.1, which we've been asked to recommend to full council. Can I ask for all those in favour of the amendment? And all those against? That's 6 for, 6 against. Yeah, thank you. In which case, I will use my casting vote to break the deadlock and vote in favour of the amendment. Thank you. That now becomes a substantive motion, but is there anybody who wants to make comment on this as a substantive motion? Councillor Whelan.
My only comment would be to just say that as we intend to present our own figures for the full council, it would not be appropriate for us to be supporting what you've actually put forward. That's the reason why we've voted against, and we will vote against on the main motion.
Okay, I understand that, Councillor Whelan. Thank you very much for that. In which case, I'll move to the vote for the substantive motion. All those in favour, please show. 6. And all those against? 6. In which case, it's 6-6, and I will use my casting vote in favour of the substantive motion. Thank you, members. And I'm sure we will have a healthy debate at full council. Item 11 is the finance report, and it's Emma again to present it.
Chair, thank you.
This one is just for noting.
Yeah, this is the Q3 finance report, and it is for noting. I've got nothing to add to the content of the report, and again, I'm happy to take questions away and ensure that answers are circulated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Emma. Members, any questions on the report? No. Any comments anybody wants to make on the report? No? In which case we've duly noted it, so thank you. Thank you, Emma. Item 12 is the Hive Leather Centre contract. Now, I think we've got two issues on this. Obviously, we've got exempt appendices, but our members yeah, I think you're going to ask the question that I was about to say. Go on.
I'm not happy to debate this at all. I didn't see the papers until far too late to actually be able to make any kind of proper assessment of this. I got to see them yesterday. I haven't had time because of other commitments. And I just think it's very unfortunate that we've had papers sent out so late, you know, on something which is so actually really quite important. The brief overview that I had led me to think that we hadn't actually considered all possibilities around what should be done. But I can't say that that's correct because I have not had time to look at this properly. So I would ask that this is deferred to the next meeting.
I was going to actually, I'm aware that members have had issues with papers. In terms of a time span, it doesn't cause us an issue because the current contract runs till 2030. So I'm reluctant to defer, but in the essence of good management, I'm happy to propose deferral till the next meeting from the chair.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want? Sorry, you wanted to comment on that, Councillor Kane?
I'd like to second that and just add, even worse than Councillor Whelan, I haven't received the additional papers. They weren't sent to me.
I mean, I became aware just before the meeting that members were, I get mine by post. I think they arrived beginning of the week, but I'm aware that, and in the essence, because it's not time critical, then you know, in the essence of fair debate of this item, then you want to come in, Councillor Bailey.
I just wanted to make sure that we got assurances that that won't happen again. Obviously, the main papers are sent out to members, and I think there is some, you know, it is incumbent on members to notice if they're missing paperwork, and they do have the ability to ask for it. I'm not sure what went wrong, Jane.
The exempt papers were missing from the original ones. You get them electronically, so that's not a problem. So they were put in the post, but they were put in so that you should receive them at the beginning of this
I
week.
see. Okay, thank you.
But you receive them.
I mean, I'm happy to support the proposal to defer.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Councillor Whelan.
Just on a technical point around that, it would be really handy if papers, instead of being sent out by post, could actually be sent out by email. That would be an awful lot easier, because then there is an instant thing. And with the ability to encrypt between East Cambridgeshire email addresses, that shouldn't actually prove a problem, even sending the confidential papers out in that way.
I send the confidential papers to those that choose to have electronic papers. They can't forward them or print them, but that's fine if you wish for that to happen. Do you want both? Do you want paper and...
No, I don't need paper at all.
I'm more than happy to take you off the print run. Anybody that wants that, you will receive them automatically, electronically.
So I did actually raise that with a previous member of staff and actually asked if we could do that as much as possible.
Yes, I'm happy for anybody to come to me and do that. That's...
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously any member who wants it electronically rather than paper.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
By all means, please tell me.
Yeah. I'm conscious Martin Gray's been sat here ready for this paper, so apologies, Martin, that yeah, I think from an expediency point of view, I think it's fair that we defer this item. So thank you. Sorry. Item 13 is the outside bodies reports, and you'll hand over to Jane for this item, please.
Thank you, Chair. Item 13 is the election of a representative to the Water Beach IDB. I've been given two nominations, Councillor Vellacott and Councillor Denny. I'm going to ask if there are any further nominations. If not, then we'll just proceed with the vote, if everybody's happy. Yeah. The first vote will be for Councillor Vellacott, so if you'd like to raise your hands in favour of Councillor Vellacott. That's 6 for and 6 against. Now we'll vote for Councillor Denny. Please raise your hands. 6. Okay, thank you. Normally I'd say I can confirm, but I'm going to now pass back to the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Obviously, to break the bedlock, I will vote in favour of Councillor Vellacott. Thank you. I would like to just say on this, which I know it's mentioned in here, if we could send our thanks to Councillor Chaplin, who was my ex-Councillor Chaplin, sorry, who was my fellow Bottisham Ward member when I first joined this council from 2016 to 2019. So, but if we could send our thanks to him.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 14 is the forward agenda plan. Now we know we've got the Hive Leisure Centre will be added to that. Is there anything else we need to be aware of? Is there any comments? Councillor Kane, then Councillor Whelan.
Considering the issues we discussed earlier about the crematorium, I think we should ask for an update to all our meetings until that project is complete.
Okay, thank you. We will take that. We will look at that and see what we can do. Councillor Whelan.
Yeah, obviously we've only got one meeting on this forward plan. I think it would be useful if we could actually have future meetings. I appreciate that, you know, this is the last meeting of the year, but I think it would be more useful to have a rolling agenda so that we could see the next few meetings, even though we're coming to the end of the year. We do know when they're going to be, and we have a good idea what's going to be on those agendas. So please, could we consider doing that?
Yeah, that seems from the chair, that seems a reasonable request to me. But again, we will take that away. In which case, that brings us to the end of the public session of the meeting. I'd like to thank members of the public and press watching online for their attendance or their viewing, and hopefully they enjoyed the meeting, and wish them enjoy the rest of their evening. So we'll pause for a couple of minutes while we take the live stream down, and then we'll go on to the items. Yeah, thank you.